One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Tai Brown and welcome to One Question. I'm here at the 2018 NCAA convention and I'm joined by Val Cleary. She's the Director of Athletics at Portland State. Greetings, Val. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ty.
Now, you've been at Portland State for a year. Before that, you were the Director of Athletics at Willamette University.
Yes.
And in a leadership role, you find yourself in a position to have to make tough decisions. And one of the things you emphasize when talking to people who want to be in leadership roles or other people you know who are in those type of influential positions is the process of making a tough decision. You just have to make it, right?
Right.
What is your process on coming to conclusions and doing the research you have to do to actually make tough decisions?
Right. I mean, I always laugh and say that sometimes the hardest decisions are usually the easiest to make, but that simplifies it, as we talked about, that you really have to go through and, number one, know kind of what's your core compass. You know, what are you trying to establish overall, whether it's based upon your mission, your values, your strategic plan, and really start from that point as the guiding point. So when you're doing all your research, you're keeping that as your central focus. And whether that's, talking to other coaches, whether it's, talking to anyone else on your staff, or just really sifting through the information needed to make that decision. I think once you kind of lay those things out, along with your genuine gut feeling, along with the kind of the quantitative stuff, along with whatever you're feeling, then it makes it easier to make the decision, but then also to support why you made the decision. And I think most of the time people will respect that. If you could give them the why to how you came to reaching that decision, people will be able to relate to it, respect it, and really follow why you made that tough decision.
In the role you're in, do you find yourself having to explain why with some of the decisions you make?
I never, whether it's with my own children or whether it's professionally, I never feel like I'm obligated to explain why.
Okay.
However, I think with your staff, it helps to build the trust and respect if they understand the process that you went through to reach that decision. I think it creates more of an investment in the ultimate decision and what you're going to be doing moving forward if people truly understand the why of how you came to that decision.
Right. And this isn't something that you learn when you're in the role. I imagine you have been working on your process of making tough decisions for years.
Right, and I think it goes little by little. One day a tough decision might be, depending upon if you're early on your career, like when I started as an academic advisor, early on a tough decision might be, having a conversation with a student athlete regarding their progress report. It could start as simple as that. And then as you grow professionally, decisions get a little bit more complex. They have a little bit, they have more players in the game, more constituents. And so then as you go further and further in your career to that leadership role, it might be involving not just your student athletes, but your coaches, your overall department, the university, sometimes community, sometimes your donors. So you really have to make sure that while you're going through that decision-making process, you're looking at it from each one of those perspectives to truly ensure that you've crossed all your T's and dotted your I's.
But it would seem like the formula is almost the same, right? You have your core values that you measure against. You do your research so you can get your data to come to your conclusion.
Completely. And like I said, whether it's something simple that you're trying to figure out what's in the best interest of that particular student athlete or that coach, but then, like I said, it gets more complex. And so then you got to kind of plop the different factors into that decision-making process to really make sure that you are really taking the time to look at it from those different viewpoints to ensure that when you do make that ultimate decision, what's going to be the impact on each one of those groups. It might not be an agreement. You might make a decision that your coaches love, but a student athlete completely disagrees with. But I think, again, if you go back to what the core value is, then you could rest easy at night knowing that you did make the best decision.
I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and he told me one of the challenges is making a decision when two of your core values conflict. Have you had to do one of those?
Oh, completely. I mean, during my time at Willamette University, I actually discontinued women's rowing. And as a female athletic director, that's a really hard personal core value because you don't want to ever take away opportunities from young women to participate in a sport that they love.
Right.
However, you need to look at it, or at least in my case, I need to look at it from the institutional standpoint, the safety standpoint, the community standpoint, to really think what was going to be in the best interest of the overall big picture. While it impacted those young women that were involved on the team at that point, I think think ultimately it's going to create some opportunities for other young women. They ended up adding lacrosse and women's triathletes, or triathlon, I should say. And, so in the end game, there's going to still be opportunities for young women. It just happened to impact that group at that time. But I also wanted to ensure their safety and well-being. That was that core value. Number one, safety and well-being of our student athletes. So if I wasn't confident in that, then it was an easy decision to make, even though it was very complex.
Does a decision like that weigh on you, or you make it and move on?
Completely. No, I don't think you're human if these things don't weigh on you.
Right.
I mean, when you're talking to young women, then you're impacting the professional life of your coaches. You're taking away a passion from a group of young women. So I think if it didn't weigh on you, that's probably meaning that you're not confident in the decision. If you're not feeling emotionally invested in it. So you really want to make sure that you do have your own personal investment of why you're making that decision, because then I think it helps you to have some credibility, but also some investment in that ultimate outcome.
So as I wrap up here real quick for those listening, making tough decisions, the formula, right, involves doing your research. Well, initially having your core values in place to know where you're making your decisions from. You have to do your research, and you said it involves a little bit of gut feeling. Would you say that's correct, or did I leave anything out?
No, correct. And I think too I think it's the human aspect. I think we're foolish in this business if we don't look at the actual human aspect of who our student athletes are, who your coaches are, who your staff is, to really make sure that you're making a respectful decision as well.
Well, excellent. This has been great. I appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us here at One Question.
Great. Thanks, Tai.
That was Val Cleary. She is the Director of Athletics at Portland State University. And this is Tai Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.